Hello, composers. As always, begin the week by going over the pieces your classmates created last week and filling out the feedback forms. Last semester, we looked at the different textures that could be created on an instrument. Harsh, smooth, thin, oscillating, pointillistic, and how they could be combined in a piece for a solo instrument. Now, we're going to look at textures in a different way, how they are used to describe multiple instruments or voices playing together to create a larger whole. The easiest texture to start with is monophonic, literally one thing playing. Simple and direct, but it can be expanded a little bit. That one thing could be an entire section in the orchestra, like all the violas playing at once. Or it could be multiple instruments performing at octave multiples. That's still considered monophonic. This is the most basic texture and the first one that everyone learns in their first group music classes by playing or singing together. Polyphonic is the opposite of monophonic. Multiple parts being played simultaneously and more or less independently. Traditionally, this is a result of contrapuntal writing, as in two-part Bach works. But this can be expanded to any number of voices carrying multiple ideas at the same time. Think of a sax quartet where everyone's playing a different melody at once. Surprisingly, this is not the most common texture, as it's generally the most complex type of music that features full polyphony at all times. However, there are times when it will be briefly used in a lot of pieces, including in pop or jazz. Homophonic textures are when one part carries the melody and the rest provide harmonic and rhythmic support. Usually, but not always, moving at the exact same rhythmic value, either in sync or in contrast to the rhythmic value of the primary part. This is probably the most common texture in Western music. Think of the singer-songwriter with a guitar or piano and voice, or hymns, or even orchestral writing, especially for younger players, where, say, the flutes and clarinets carry the melody, and everyone else is providing quarter note harmonic support underneath them. Heterophony is a bit of a rarity in Western music prior to the 20th century, but it's extremely common in other cultures, especially in Arabic and Turkish classical music, gamelan music, and in a variety of folk music styles throughout the world. The major characteristic of heterophonic music is that there is one single melodic line being played simultaneously by multiple performers, each of whom is performing different variations on the same melody all at once. These could be changes to the rhythmic durations or tempo, elaborations on melodic figurations, say through the inclusion of grace notes, adding triplets or repeating a pitch, adding in turns, etc., or other interpretive decisions like holding a note longer and then coming in at another structural point. It's really cool to hear when done live in an improvised context, especially by musicians who know what they're doing. Hockett is a technique for fragmenting the texture by sharing notes or chords between multiple voices so that while one voice is playing, the others are resting. Generally, there's a regular back and forth between the voices, but this can be altered so that one voice may play more than one note to complete a cadence or include a pickup. It's also common to use this technique in the studio with extreme left and right panning so that you get an alternation of a part between the speakers. However, there is no restatement of pitches or repetition of large sections, as in call and response. Let's listen to an example. Here is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, first played on a monophonic piano. And now, here is a Hockett version that has been set for 4 voices. Watch the voices, starting in the violin solo, the oboe-centric, choir 4 reverb, and obese pluck, to see them trigger individually. Ignore the group track here, as that will always be sending audio data to the master. Pretty cool. Finally, there is Pointillism. Pioneered by Anton Webern as an offshoot of Klangfarben melody, or tone color melody, Pointillism involves the splitting of a musical line among multiple instruments on a note-by-note basis, similar to Hockett, but exploring the timbral possibilities that can be created in an ensemble. In addition to fragmenting the melody, register shifts through octave jumps are very common, as are dramatic dynamic changes between each subsequent note. It's also common to double or triple or even quadruple a note among multiple instruments at unisons or octaves to create really interesting timbral shifts. Our listening for this week, Webern's Symphony Opus 21, is the textbook for this particular technique. Keep in mind that it's extremely rare for a piece to use only one texture. Composers frequently will change texture in order to better explore an idea in their piece, to change the tone, or to reinforce a melody or harmony for the listener.